A few winters back, I was hauling through northern Nevada. Dead of December. One of those nights where the cold cuts straight through your bones. I was riding solo, miles away from anything that could even pretend to be civilization. No radio signal, no headlights, except my own. Just asphalt and snow, swallowing the road inch by inch. It had been snowing lightly all day, but right around sunset, things got ugly fast. The flakes turned thick, heavy, like the sky just dumped everything it had on me at once. Visibility tanked. I slowed down to a crawl, white-knuckling the steering wheel, telling myself I just needed to make it to the next town. That's when I saw him. At first, I thought it was some weird shadow or a trick from the snow glare. But as my headlights closed the distance, my stomach dropped. Someone was standing dead center in the highway, not waving, not moving, just standing there. I slammed the brakes, tires sliding, barely stopping in time. The guy was completely coated in snow, like he'd been out there forever. No features, no face, just a human-shaped mound of white. I cracked my window and yelled, "Dude, are you out of your mind?" Slowly, real slow, he lifted his head. That's when I saw the mask. A smooth white plastic mask covered his entire face. No expression, no mouth movement, just blank. Snow clung to it like frosting. The sight of it sent a chill straight through me, deeper than the cold ever could. My brain screamed nope. I rolled the window back up and started easing past him, telling myself to get the hell out of there. But then he raised both hands, palms out, signaling me to stop. He still didn't say a word. And then he started dancing. Not jerky, not random. This dude moved like he knew exactly what he was doing. Clean footwork, smooth spins, controlled like a street performer you'd see in New York or LA. It was surreal. I just sat there, frozen, watching him perform in the middle of a snowstorm like this was totally normal. After about half a minute, he stopped and mimed holding a phone, pointing at me like he wanted me to record him. Like, "Yo, film this." My brain was scrambling for logic. Was this some TikTok stunt? A prank? Some influencer nonsense gone wrong? Before I could decide, another figure emerged from the right shoulder of the road. This guy was dressed almost exactly the same. White jacket, white pants, white mask. But his energy was different. Fast, angry. He pulled a gun. The second I saw metal, everything snapped into focus. This wasn't content. This wasn't funny. This was bad. I floored it. The car fishtailed hard, tires screaming against ice, but adrenaline took over. I ducked as the guy swung the gun toward me, my heart pounding so loud I couldn't hear anything else. In my rearview mirror, both figures stood there, perfectly still watching me disappear. Then I heard gunshots. I nearly lost control, convinced I was about to die. But when I glanced back again, the shooter wasn't aiming at me. He was firing at the dancer. The masked performer collapsed into the snow like a dropped mannequin, and then the gunman turned back toward me and started firing wildly. I don't remember how I escaped. Muscle memory took over. When I finally felt safe enough to stop, I called the cops, hands shaking, voice barely holding together. Later, they told me something that messed with me even more. No blood, no shell casings, no footprints, no body, like nothing had ever happened. To this day, I still don't know what I witnessed out there. A setup, a test, or something way darker. All I know is, whenever it snows, I don't stop driving. Not for anyone. I was about 11 years old when it happened. I'm 20 now. And even though I've grown up, moved on, and learned how to explain most things with logic, that night still messes with my head. Back then, I didn't believe in ghosts, spirits, or any of that creepy stuff. I was the kid who rolled his eyes at horror stories. That night changed me. It was around 1 in the morning when I woke up for no real reason. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes your ears ring. My mom and my grandma were asleep in the same room, breathing slow and steady. I remember needing to use the bathroom, but before I could sit up, I heard it. A jingling sound. At first, it was faint, like someone lightly shaking keys. I thought maybe my brain was still half asleep, but then it kept going. Steady, rhythmic, like tiny bells being shaken over and over again. My heart started racing. I pulled the blanket up to my chin and just listened. The sound wasn't random. It had a pattern, like whoever or whatever was making it knew exactly what they were doing. It echoed through the room, loud enough that I was sure everyone had to hear it, but no one stirred. My mom didn't move. My grandma didn't even shift in her sleep. That's when panic really set in. There was no way they couldn't hear it. The noise filled the room, yet somehow it felt like it was meant only for me. The sound seemed to be coming from the balcony outside my bedroom. That alone made my stomach twist. We lived on the second floor. There was nothing directly outside. No stairs, no ledge you could stand on without falling straight down to the pavement. I thought about getting up and checking. Yeah, no chance. I stayed frozen under the covers, staring at the dark outline of the balcony door. The jingling went on forever. Not speeding up, not slowing down. Just constant, like it was waiting for something. At one point, I convinced myself that if I moved, it would stop. So I stayed perfectly still. Didn't even breathe right. Minutes dragged into what felt like hours. I checked the clock on my phone once, 1:17 a.m. Later it was 1:54. Still jingling. Eventually, exhaustion won. I must have fallen asleep because the next thing I remember was sunlight creeping into the room. Morning felt normal. Too normal. At breakfast, I asked my parents if they heard anything strange during the night. Bells, keys, anything. They all shook their heads. My mom laughed and said I probably dreamed it. My grandma said I was imagining things, but I wasn't. I knew what I heard. Later that day, I went out onto the balcony with my dad. There was nothing there. No bells, no strings. No way anyone could have stood there without climbing the building like some kind of ninja. That's what messes with me the most. If it was a person, how did they get there? If it wasn't, why me? Even now, years later, certain sounds still make my chest tighten. Wind chimes, keychains, Christmas bells. Every time I hear that soft metallic jingle, I'm back in that bed, staring into the dark, wondering if something was right outside. Listening. And honestly, I'm glad I never opened that door. Because whatever was making that sound didn't want the whole house awake. It wanted me. I've been a long-haul trucker for years, the kind of job that turns nights into days and days into blurs. 12-hour shifts were normal, sometimes longer. You learn to live off caffeine, audiobooks, and muscle memory. Most nights are boring. That night was not. It was well past midnight when the road started getting to me. No traffic, no lights. Just endless black stretching ahead. My energy drink stash was empty, just a bunch of crushed cans rattling around like mocking reminders. My eyes felt heavy and I knew better than to push it. When I saw the convenience store sign up ahead, I felt relief. Except something about it felt off. The sign flickered, buzzing like it was barely alive. The building looked old, run down, like it hadn't been updated since the 90s. Still, the neon open sign was glowing red, so I pulled in. At that point, I just wanted caffeine. and to get back on the road. The moment I stepped inside, my gut told me I'd screwed up. The lighting was dim and tinted red like emergency lights stuck on permanent mode. The air smelled wrong, chemical, stale. The shelves were mostly empty, stocked with dusty, expired junk. Chip bags socked flat, like all the air had been pulled out of them. The roller grill near the counter had dried on dark residue that didn't look like food. I called out, hello? Nothing. The door chime jingled behind me, and for a split second I thought someone else had walked in. But then I heard metal clanking. I turned around just in time to see an old man dragging a heavy chain across the front door. He was locking it from the inside. "Hey, I'm still in here!" I yelled, my voice cracking. He didn't react. He looped the chain, snapped a padlock shut, and then reached up and shut off the lights. The store dropped into total darkness. Panic hit hard. I rushed toward him and grabbed his shoulder. He turned slowly, way too calm, like he knew exactly where I was. When he opened his mouth to speak, my blood ran cold. His tongue was mangled, short, scarred, like it had been partially cut off. When he tried to talk, nothing came out, just air and a wet clicking sound. I shoved him, screaming for him to open the door. That's when I heard footsteps, heavy ones. A door creaked open somewhere behind me, and two massive figures stepped out of the darkness. They were tall, way taller than normal, and wrapped head to toe in duct tape. Faces, arms, legs, all of it. Each of them held a knife, but the blades were twisted into spiral shapes like corkscrews made of steel. They were laughing, speaking in a language I didn't recognize, definitely not English. One of them tilted his head toward me, like I was something on a menu. My brain went straight into survival mode. I noticed the chain on the door hadn't been fully secured. The lock was hanging loose. I shoved the old man aside, ripped the chain off, and burst outside into the freezing night. They didn't chase me. That was the worst part. They just stood in the doorway watching. The old man now held a mop, dragging it slowly across the floor behind them. One of the taped men lifted his hand and waved something at me. It looked like a candy bar. I jumped into my truck, slammed the door, and peeled out of the lot. In my mirrors, I saw the store lights shut off instantly, like someone flipped a switch on reality itself. I didn't slow down for miles. I called the cops, hands shaking, explaining everything. When they checked the location later, they found something that chilled me even more. The store had been officially closed for years. No power, no employees, no business license. Inside the back office, they found a bucket filled with cleaning chemicals and a desk stabbed so many times it looked shredded. No sign of the men, no sign of the old guy. Just silence. To this day, I don't stop at remote gas stations. If a place looks empty or too open, I keep driving, because sometimes the worst places aren't abandoned. They're waiting